Hello everyone, I'm Jason from Pikes Regional Building Department, and today we're going to go over deck inspections. First, let's go over when you are required to have a permit for your deck. If you have a deck that is greater than 200 square feet, is greater than 30 inches off the ground, or is attached directly to your house, you are required to submit plans, pull a permit, and have inspections on that deck.
So it's not all three, it's if you meet any of those criteria, that's when you need a permit.
Correct. So after you pull your permit on your deck, you will have 3 inspections. You will have a footer inspection that we are looking at your pier sizes. We are going to also have a frame inspection, and then we'll have a final inspection. So let's start with your footer inspection. Over here, we have a pier that we're going to look at, and we're going to go over exactly how we're going to do that inspection for you. So after your inspector arrives on site, he's going to go ahead and open up his computer, and he's going to pull up your approved plans. From those approved plans, what he's going to do is he's going to go ahead and he's going to verify the correct number of piers, and he's going to look at the diameter sizes that are required for each pier. You may have multiple different sizes of piers for the same deck, as a reminder. So after we verify that, this is a relatively small deck and it only has 1 pier, and the required diameter of the pier is 22 inches. In El Paso County, all the minimum depths for your piers are going to be 30 inches. So let's go ahead and let's actually do the inspection of this pier now. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to walk up and we're going to verify that we don't have any water, snow, or debris in the bottom of your pier that could affect the integrity of the pier and also make it so that we can actually do a correct inspection. This one looks great. There's no debris in the bottom of it.
And you guys see this a lot. It might be snow, it might be junk or debris, or something's fallen in there. You guys see it quite often.
Yes, especially after inclement weather. And that all needs to be removed from the pier prior to inspection in order to pass that inspection. Okay, like I said, this one looks great, so we're going to go ahead and measure it now. Now when we measure our piers, we're going to measure it at both the top and the bottom of the pier to ensure that the diameter of the pier is correct and uniform throughout. So the first thing we're going to go ahead, in this one, we're going to measure the bottom of the pier. This one's 26 inches. The minimum requirement is 23, so it looks great at the bottom.
Better to go too big rather than too small.
That's correct. The sizes of the piers that will be in your plans are going to be minimum sizes. If you want to, you're more than welcome to go ahead and go bigger, but those are minimum sizes, and that's what we're going to be looking for. I'm also going to go ahead and measure at the top, just to ensure. Same thing, looks great. It's more than the minimum required size. It is very important that we maintain the diameter size all the way from the top of the pier to the bottom. We see a lot of times where the bottom of the pier will be smaller than the required diameter. That will not pass an inspection.
And that happens a lot, particularly with homeowners or people who might be digging the holes by hand, maybe not using machinery.
That is correct. So if you're required to be 22 inches at the top, you're also required to be 22 inches at the bottom. If it's only 16 or 18 inches at the bottom, that will not pass your inspection. Okay? So after we verify that the diameter is correct, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go and check the depth of this pier. Like I said, in El Paso County, the minimum required depth is going to be 30 inches. Too great. This one's 36. It looks great. This is same thing. This is greater than the minimum depth. So this pier would pass inspection, and the customer would be able to move forward onto the next phase of their deck installment. All right, we're obviously at another site. Now we're going to go over what you need for a frame inspection. As you can see, sometimes we'll show up to a site and it'll still be an active construction site because the homeowner or the contractor is preparing this deck for a final inspection. But we're here to do a frame, so let's go see what we're going to look at frame. Now on this deck in particular, we're able to see all the framing components from underneath the deck. We're going to go ahead and look at the approved design, and pretty much most of the frame inspection is going to be driven by the approved design that you have on file. So I'm going to first look at posts, where the posts are, the number of posts, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that we have the proper post base and post caps and that they're all secured per manufacturer's instruction. We're also going to go ahead and look at your beams, be them a drop beam or a flush beam. We're going to make sure that they're properly sized per your drawings, and we're going to make sure that you have the proper bearing. What we do see sometimes, if you have to use multiple 2x members to make your beam, you need to make sure that your breaks happen over top of a bearing point and not out in the middle of space. This is a big problem, and you won't pass your inspection. Does not meet code requirements. To verify again, your breaks need to happen over a bearing point like a post. We're also going to go ahead and we're going to check your ledger. Make sure your ledger is properly sized to your drawings, and that it is fastened off per the approved drawings that you've submitted through PPRBD. Properly attaching the ledger is an area we see a lot of mistakes from both homeowners and contractors. When we look at the plans, it specifically says how the ledger should be installed and what equipment should be used. Whatever the plans say is what you have to use, and that includes properly sized connection equipment. We're also going to look at joists. We're going to look at the sizing of the joists, and we're going to look at the spacing of the joists. We're going to ensure that the hardware that you are using to fasten your joists is properly sized, and that it is fastened completely and per manufacturer's specifications. The last thing we'll go ahead and look at is we're going to look at your stair stringers. We're going to make sure the spacing on the stair stringers is correct for whatever material that you're using for your treads and risers. We're also going to make sure that it's all fastened off properly and everything, all hardware is installed per manufacturer specifications. Again, it's very important. Hardware is installed per manufacturer's specifications, and all the components of your deck are correctly sized and installed per the drawings that you have submitted through PPRBD. Once we've confirmed all that, we'll go ahead and we'll pass that frame and get you into the next phase of the final. We're at a new deck now. This deck is ready for a final inspection, and we're going to go ahead and go over what your inspector is going to be looking for at a final inspection for your deck. First thing we're going to talk about is going to be your landings. You're required at the bottoms of your set of stairs, you're required to have a landing that is a minimum of 36 inches in the direction of travel and is at least as wide as the stairs that it serves. Just looking at this landing obviously is wider than the set of steps we have, so it meets that requirement. And then as you measure it, we're at 53 inches. That far exceeds the 36 inches that we're required to have. So this landing works perfectly. We're also going to go ahead and inspect your stairs. We're going to inspect your both your risers and the treads of the stairs. The maximum any of your risers can be is 7 3/4 of an inch. You're also required to be no more than 3/8 of an inch difference from your smallest riser. So if you have your smallest riser 7 inches, the largest one can be 7 3/8. We're looking at that because we're really looking for the consistency to be there. This one's at right at 7 3/4, so this works. And we're going to check all the way up to ensure that consistency. Your treads, the minimum requirement for your treads is going to be 10 inches. Same thing as your risers. The largest tread cannot be greater than 3/8 of an inch bigger than your smallest tread. So if your smallest is 10, the biggest one can be 10 3/8. Same thing, because we're looking for that consistency. This one's about 10 3/4. And as we move up, these treads are all the same, and the consistency is right where what we're looking for. Next, we're going to go ahead and we're going to talk a little bit about guards. We're going to talk a little bit about handrails at your stairs. So you're required to have a guard at your stairs anytime you have a fall hazard greater than 30 inches within 36 inches of a walking surface, which we obviously have here. So we're required to have a guard on each side. The guard on a set of stairs only is required to be a minimum of 34 inches. We're going to go ahead and we're going to measure that from the nosing of your treads.
And that's important, the location of where you measure from.
Correct. We do not want to be measuring from back here. We want to be measuring right here from the front of your nosing to make sure that we have the requirements. This one's 36 inches, so it exceeds what you're required to have. You're also required to have a handrail that goes continuous from all the way from the top to the edge of your front nosing here at the bottom. It has to be graspable, and the measurement on that needs to be a minimum of 34 to 38 inches, measured from the same location. This one's about 35 inches, which is right in the sweet spot between the 34 and 38. Looks great. Now your guard can act as your handrail as long as it meets all the requirements of a handrail as well. 34 to 38 inches in height, that it's graspable, and it's continuous from the top to the bottom. If it doesn't meet all those requirements, you'll have to add a handrail on one side, just like they did here. And it's only required to be on one side. We have a center post on this guard, which is exactly why we have another handrail here, because we have an interruption. So that's why they've added a handrail, so that we can be continuous from the top all the way down to the bottom. Okay, now we're going to talk about the guards on the deck itself. Just like the requirements for the guards on your stairs, the requirement's going to be the same for the top of your deck. If you have a fall hazard of greater than 30 inches, you're going to be required to have a guardrail. That guardrail is going to be required to be a minimum of 36 inches in height and cannot allow the passage of a 4-inch sphere anywhere on the deck itself. So we're going to measure this one. And your inspector is going to go ahead and continue to check all your guards throughout the entire deck. The one thing that we do see quite often is you'll have a post like this that'll be set a little bit too far from the house. You're required to not have the passage of a 4-inch sphere anywhere that you're required to have a guard. This one works, it's less than 4 inches, so this works. Looking at this deck, it meets all the requirements for a final. We would go ahead and close this permit out for this customer. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you have any more questions, you can visit our website at pprbd.org. We have lots of handouts for decks if you're interested in getting more information. Thank you very much.